G'day gymnastics skill seekers, and welcome to Check Your False Grip. In this little video, I'm going to talk about some ideas around false grip training for the ring muscle up. So check number one is all about finding your false grip. Now, this depends on where you are in your muscle up journey. If you're working towards your first muscle up, then the false grip is going to be different to if you're training towards multiple reps of your muscle up. So here's why. So when we begin our muscle up training, we're often taught to grab the front of the ring. We put the hand through the ring and we grip the front edge of the ring. We then rotate the ring and bring the ring towards us, and this gets us a false grip. Now, holding the front of the ring allows us to pull higher in the false grip chin up, which makes the transition a little bit easier. The problem is that as we move through the transition, the ring is going to move inside the strap. Now, this is not a bad thing because when we push out of the ring dip, we want to have the hands or the grip at the bottom of the rings. Trying to do a dip when your hands are holding the front of the rings is going to be quite painful or probably impossible for some people. So then when we come down out of the muscle up through the eccentric, back to the bottom of the dip, and we work through the transition, we establish a false grip with the grip at the bottom of the rings, which means the next time we pull up for the second rep, we're not going to get as high in that pull up. So it's going to make the second rep harder than the first because the first rep, we were holding the front of the ring. Now, I don't mind beginners learning to do their first muscle up with this holding the front of the ring false grip. But if you want to start to do more muscle ups, more than one repetition, you're going to need to learn to do it with a false grip at the bottom of the rings. Now, holding the bottom of the rings limits our ability to pull as high, okay? Because now that grip is lower on the ring, you're not going to get as high, so it's going to make the transition harder. So we can work on false grip bent arm hangs, spending time in that top position and working on building strength at the top. And we can also spend time in a straight arm false grip hang where the shoulders are depressed, so the shoulders are active here. Now, we want the shoulders to be active because this allows us to get higher in the pull-up. If we're passive through the shoulders and we're only pulling with the biceps, we're not going to get as high. The transition is going to be nearly impossible unless you're adding kipping to the movement, and it's still going to be a lot harder than if you had the shoulders depressed. So false grip bent arm hangs to build the strength at the top of the pull-up, the false grip pull-up, and false grip straight arm hangs with the active shoulder to start to build strength in the shoulders in that position is also going to be beneficial. Now, a lot of people have trouble holding the false grip in the straight arm position, okay? They lack shoulder flexion, so they're holding bent arm, or you'll see people doing multiple reps of a ring muscle up where they never go to full lockout at the bottom of their pull up because they can't. So they're just doing partial reps. So what's missing? This is check number two. We're talking about shoulder flexion range of motion. If you can't hold the false grip with straight arm hang, then chances are you're missing shoulder flexion. So a simple test we can do here is one that I also like to use for handstand testing. Do you have the flexibility to do handstands? Is we stand with our back to the wall and our feet are roughly 1 foot length away from the wall. We lean back on the wall, we set a posterior pelvic tilt and we push our lower back into the wall and we keep the back of the head touching the wall, okay? So we're flat back against the wall. We put the arms out in front of us so the arms are straight and they're shoulder width apart. Then from this position, can we raise the arms overhead and can we touch our thumbs to the wall without the elbows bending or without taking the arms outside of shoulder width, okay? You're not going to do a muscle up out here. You want to be keeping the arms in close. Now, if you can't touch the wall and keep the elbows straight, you've got tightness in your pecs, in your lats, and or biceps. So we need to work on flexibility training. We need to stretch out these muscles to improve your overhead position, okay? No amount of muscle up training, especially if you're just doing partial reps, is ever going to allow you to get into that position. You need to isolate the flexibility work so that you can improve your muscle up work. Now, weak shoulder external rotators and weak lower trapezius muscles are also going to impact your shoulder range of motion. So we need to be working on shoulder external rotation. We need to be working on trap 3 raises to increase shoulder to increase shoulder stability, to decrease the chance of injury, to increase our upper body pushing and pulling strength, and to improve our shoulder mobility. So we're always including shoulder external rotation and trap 3 in our training every week. The next thing I want to talk about is checking your advanced gymnastics rings training. What do I mean by this? So when we're learning the muscle up, we're often pulling in this neutral in front of the chest pull up. This is an easier pull up than going in a wider grip. So it helps us get higher, which helps us transition through the muscle up. But if we're here in this neutral grip, we can't do more advanced gymnastics movements such as forward rolls or backwards rolls, or let's say moving from the German hang into the ring support position, going through the muscle up. We can't do it because we need the torso to be able to fit between the rings. And if you've got the rings close together, that's not going to happen. So we need to be in a wide grip, and we need to be able to do a wide false grip muscle up so that we can go into more advanced gymnastic skills. Now, a wider grip, false grip pull-up is harder than the neutral grip, so you're going to need to be stronger to get enough height to be able to do that transition. Again, this comes down to shoulder strength, the scapular depression strength, and it comes down to your pulling strength. Again, spending time in a bent arm, false grip, wide grip pull-up, building strength in the top position there is definitely going to start to help you get through that transition in the pull-up. Or in the muscle up, should I say. The next thing that we want to talk about is protecting the wrist. So check number 4 is protecting the wrist, or it's more of a tip really. When we're training false grip and we're doing a lot of work, especially if it's a hot climate or we're sweating, we're going to start to tear the skin on the wrists. Now, once we start to tear, we want to stop training for the day, because if we keep tearing the skin and we get to a point where it starts to bleed, that's going to take a lot longer to heal, which means we're not going to be able to train the muscle up for 2 to 3 weeks while we're waiting for the wrist to heal. Now, frequency is important. If we want to get the muscle up, we need to be consistently practicing the muscle up. And if you're injured, got a torn wrist, and you can't actually put any weight on it, then you can't train the muscle up. So by taping the wrists, it removes the chance of tearing the skin. It allows us to do more volume in our muscle up training, which means we're going to be able to progress faster. Okay, so I recommend buying some athletic tape. Don't tape it too tight. You need to be able to flex the wrist and straighten the wrist as you work through the transition. And that's just going to help you protect your wrists and be able to consistently train the false grip and the transition in the muscle up. This comes to check number 5, which is like training frequency. And again, this depends on where you are in your muscle up journey and also what your goals are. In the beginning, if you're just starting to learn the muscle up, I'd suggest only training transitions once a week. The transition puts a lot of pressure on the elbows. So you might start to experience elbow pain, especially if you're training it more than once a week. And it takes time to build the strength of the connective tissue in the elbow. So gradually train it, allow it to recover, train it, allow it to recover. Now, all of my online clients who are working towards their first strict muscle up, training it once a week is enough for them to progress and achieve this goal. If you're a more advanced gymnastics skill seeker and you're working on forward rolls and backwards rolls and you're doing ring routines and there's a lot of other stuff going on, well, then you're going to be doing the muscle up more than once a week. But we want to progress to that slowly and slowly increase volume, increase frequency. And if you do start to experience elbow pain, you're probably going to have to rest the transition for a little while, work on strengthening that connective tissue, and then coming back, gradually building up the frequency again. So that all depends on, what your goals are and what you want to accomplish there, but also your training history and experience too. So there are some checks you can work through. Hope you found this video useful. If you've got any questions about any of these checks, feel free to leave a comment below and I'll get back to you. Other than that, happy muscle up training.